Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's session of the Insperity Business Resiliency Series webcast. Over the past several years, this series has been instrumental in addressing some of the most pressing topics facing today's growth-minded businesses. And as we continue this series here in the fall of 2023, we once again encounter a business environment that remains relatively unclear. Inflation continues to be a dominant issue for American families and businesses, impacting everything from everyday cost of goods and services to ever-increasing interest rates, essentially asking everyone to stretch their already stretched budget even further. And last month, national news outlets reported that U.S. consumer credit card debt surpassed $1 trillion for the first time ever, while credit card delinquencies were at their highest point in more than a decade. The situation is potentially being further compounded with the end of the pandemic-related pause of student loan debt repayments, with interest on those loans resuming in October. And these loans equate to another $1.6 trillion in debts owed by more than 40 million Americans. So on the whole, these factors and the financial stress that accompanies them is having an impact on every phase of life. And as a consequence, financial health is now more than ever a primary concern in the relationship between employees and employers. And together, these financial demands are putting tremendous upward pressure on salaries and benefits, particularly as the post-COVID workplace continues to wrestle with the mobility and flexibility that hybrid and remote work options provide. To attract and retain the talent for tomorrow, employers must continue to revalidate their compensation and benefit strategies to ensure that they remain competitive, all while keeping a close eye on the persistent economic headwinds that are causing inflation that seems to be outpacing wage growth even now. In short, the solutions that may have worked in the past may not be sufficient for the challenges of the future. But there is another critical factor that also must be considered in the discussion. Financial stress at home impacts every area of life, including productivity in the workplace. So to successfully work through this season, we need engaged, motivated team members who are prepared to bring the very best of themselves to their professional roles. So it's in every employer's best interest to consider how you can equip your team with the tools and the resources needed to help them navigate these times. If done thoughtfully, you will be building a loyal, engaged workforce who are then in turn creating and serving a loyal and engaged customer base. Though this path forward may not always be clear, there are immediate actions that you can take and to support your team and your business on this front. So that's our topic for today's session, employee financial wellness, why it matters to employers more than ever. My name is Michael Leip, Managing Director of Brand and Marketing Strategy here at Insperity, and I'm the host of the Insperity Business Series webcast. And I'm pleased to welcome our featured guest to today's session. First, I'd like to welcome Judy Bircher, Vice President of Health and Welfare Services here at Insperity. Judy has over 20 years of experience in employee benefits and is passionate about supporting all phases of employee well-being. Judy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Michael, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Next, we have Joy Owie, a Senior Health and Welfare Content Designer, also with Insperity. Joy leads the company's well-being content strategy and manages the Wellbeing On Demand page on the Insperity Premier platform. She has a master's degree in human resources and is passionate about the arts as a primary way to manage her own personal and professional well-being. So Joy, it's great to have you as well.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
You bet. And finally, I'm pleased to welcome Cornell Stager, a partner in PwC's workforce transformation practice with more than 20 years experience in this field. He leads PwC's employee financial wellness practice nationally with a keen focus on helping employer clients empower their employees to make smart financial choices through financial education and guidance. Cornell, it's great to have you. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today as well.
Thank you, Michael. Excited to be here and looking forward to our discussion.
Good. All right, so let's jump into our discussion here. Per our topic for today, we've sort of set our thesis statement as that employee financial wellness should matter more to employers now more than ever before, and certainly the research bears that out. So, Cornell, I'd like to ask you to start us off here. Each year for the past several years, PwC has conducted an annual employee financial wellness survey, and I'm sure there are some common themes that have spanned across the years that you've done it. But before we jump into some of the analysis of the 2023 report, maybe you can give us a primer on why you do the survey, who are you surveying, and perhaps some of those themes or insights that you've seen consistently over the years.
Sure. So we've been doing the Employee Financial Wellness Survey for 12 years now. And our goal from the beginning has been to check the pulse of today's employees when it comes to their financial well-being. So everyone we survey is a full-time employee, and we try to replicate the American workforce. So we have representation from employees from a wide range of industries and employer sizes, from small to large organizations. And we aim to balance them based on gender, generation, ethnicity, to really approximate what the US labor workforce is itself. And your question around kind of what the trends we've seen, it's been interesting to see the arc of the employee issues and concerns over the years and what's been consistent and what's kind of changed. One of the consistent themes is how cash flow and debt issues is still top employee concerns and can really impact employees' ability to effectively save for their own future. That's been consistent since day one of when we've been doing this and continually rises to the top of everything that we see. When we ask employees about their behaviors when it comes to saving, spending, debt, funding college and retirement, we also ask how they feel and like what's stressing them out, how confident they are, what other areas of their lives are impacted by their finances. Because as you mentioned before, it's all interrelated, and we're kind of really seeing that come to the forefront now. So over the years, we've seen some interesting insights. One thing we try to cover is what do employees define financial wellness? Across all generations, they tend to tell us that financial wellness means freedom from financial stress and debt and being prepared for emergencies. That's been fairly consistent. What very few employees define financial wellness in terms of retirement, which, as you all know, is sometimes how a lot of our employee financial wellness programs are designed and focused on. We also find that employees want help with their finances. We see that in their surveys. We see that in our day-to-day jobs when we're working with coaching employees. Well, the problem we're trying to solve for is that many employees wait to seek that guidance until they're in some type of financial crisis. And that's kind of the crux of what we've been trying to tackle over the years and, having our survey be kind of highlight some of these findings.
That's really good. Those are some powerful themes that I think we're going to touch on many of them in our time today. So let's get to the 2023 survey. We're in a unique time. Obviously, the 12 years that you've been doing this, you've certainly seen some consistent things, but in this post-COVID environment, now we're starting to see some things that are being driven by the financial impacts of the things we talked about here earlier. So I'd like to get into some of these 2023 findings and understand some of the things that are unique there. So we talk about the reality of sustained inflation, record consumer credit card debt, this continually highly dynamic labor market. So maybe tell us some of the things that are unique in the 2023 survey.
Sure. I mean, the main headline is employees are stressed, right? 60% of full-time employees are stressed about their finances. And that's really come through, it's not just what causes them the most stress in their lives. They say personal finances. It's more than all other things combined. And they admit that this stress negatively impacts a lot of areas of their well-being, right? So it isn't just limited to their finances. It's impacting their sleep. It's impacting their mental health, self-esteem, their physical health, and even relationships at home. It's amazing how all this kind of is crux into what their finances do to them. Inflation was top of mind. More employees report that their compensation isn't keeping up with the rising cost of living expenses. That was slightly different than what we saw over the past few years during the pandemic. But what may surprise many employers is that half of those employees still find it difficult to meet household expenses each month, which is up from last year, even though we've heard a lot of rising wages and kind of more keeping pace with inflation. This year, we also asked employees about living paycheck to paycheck. A third of them, of full-time employees, reported that they often or always run out of money between paychecks. And this was really prevalent in the retail sector, which may not be a surprise because they are kind of more in that paycheck to paycheck thing as compared to other ones in manufacturing or tech sectors. The last kind of big finding we found is that employee financial wellness has on the employer's bottom lines. Financially stressed employees tend to be more distracted at work, which impacts productivity. They're also less engaged, and another interesting finding is they're more likely to seek another job. And that's kind of a trigger point for a lot of employers to think about how they're interacting with their employees.
Yeah, we're going to dig into that last point here as we go through our time today. And this is a reminder to everybody, we will be posting this the recording of this webinar on Insperity.com later today. So if you'd like to rewatch it and or share it with others, you can find it there. Judy, I'd like to get your response to the themes that we've uncovered here from the 2023 Employee Financial Wellness Survey from PwC, and specifically, how do you think those themes are translating to the clients that Insperity serves and that you and your teams are serving here at Insperity? Cornell mentioned some framework ideas around the whole person. Is there a framework that we use to really understand and translate that overall well-being in ways that can be understood within, this immediate context we're in?
Yes, Michael, of course. We have the overall framework that we work under. We call it the 5 pillars of health. So we talk about the social aspect, the professional, the physical, the emotional, and financial, of course, which is what this seminar is about. So they all interconnect. You can't have one part of you be completely healthy and the other parts all dragging you down and not understand that every single thing that you think or do impacts your physical, it impacts your emotional. Financial health has always been one of the biggest pieces, I think, that drive mental and health. And also it is very distracting. So when you are worried, as Cornell said, when you're worried about where your next dollar is going to come from to pay the next bill, even if you're gainfully employed, you still worry, how do I stretch that dollar? And it doesn't matter which generation you're in. It doesn't matter that you're a young new person starting out. It doesn't matter where you are in your life cycle. We all have those stresses that hit us. Once you get past I've got to raise my children and pay for daycare, then you get to I've got to pay for college, or I've got to at least try and help. They all impact our thoughts and processes. So I do think that employers do have a responsibility. I think another thing that Cornell stated here, it's not just about offering a 401k anymore. The days of pension plans where you feel like you have that, future defined benefit that's going to come your way, that doesn't happen anymore. But 401k plans are table stakes. That is just part of what an employer offers today. It's on the table for every single client that Insperity has, for sure. And but it's also about everything else that we have a responsibility to do. And so that's what Insperity is trying to do, right? Is provide those pieces of across every one of those to understand what each of our carriers offer and to make sure those are highlighted so our clients and our employees can see those benefits and understand and how to use them. And I think Joy will do a really good job of showing some examples of how that can happen.
Yeah, so let's go there, Joy. She set the stage for you. So we mentioned that financial related stress can be the source of so many other issues, right? That they impact productivity, they impact engagement, and then as Judy says, so many of these things are interrelated. So, what are some of those practical examples that come to mind for you?
Well, like Cornell and Judy mentioned, it's really become evident in the last few years just how interconnected all the facets of well-being are and how important it is to look at employee well-being holistically. When an employee is struggling in one area of their life, that can have far-reaching implications in all of the other areas. Financial concerns are consistently cited as one of the leading causes of stress, and regardless the cause of that stress, it's also well established that stress contributes to physical health problems. A person who's struggling with stress is probably not sleeping well. They're not finding the time to exercise regularly or eat well. Stress contributes to high blood pressure, headaches, digestive problems, and a host of other physical health issues. That person may also find themselves withdrawing socially or being short-tempered with their family and friends. Unsurprisingly, financial concerns are one of the leading causes of divorce. And from an employer standpoint, people who are just trying to make it through the day in one piece are not looking for growth opportunities in their professional life. In short, when something is negatively affecting a person's well-being, it isn't happening in a vacuum and you're not getting their best work. And on the other side of that coin, just like financial stress can negatively impact other aspects of a person's well-being, the root cause of their financial stress could be coming from one of those other areas. A lot of families experience financial strain because of caregiving expenses, like Judy mentioned, daycare, or supplemental care for an aging or ill loved one. Medical debt is a major cause of financial stress. Getting a divorce causes tremendous financial difficulty. It's not as simple as someone buying too much avocado toast or something like certain clickbait news articles would have us believe. There are a lot of factors at play, and they're all intertwined together.
That's true. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joy, and it's cyclical, right? It comes back around, right? So you might start on one side of that spectrum, come around, maybe solve that financial problem, and then something else hits you back down and you have to kind of battle back up. So it is a cycle.
And Joy did mention a really big one. So one of the things that we're offering here at the beginning of the year is caregiver support. So we're partnering with CareLoop, and we're offering that caregiver support across our whole entire book of business, full-time and part-time employees. And then, of course, My Secure Advantage is another offering around financial well-being. So both of those will help. They both have live people to talk to, somebody that they can call to help navigate. If you move into a new area, we'll talk about childcare. You move into a new area, maybe you get transferred with your job and you're uprooting your entire family. Well, that causes a lot of stress. And then you have to find new daycare, new people that you can surround yourself with to take care of your children. And Care Loop will help with that. So that is one of the, it says caregiver solutions. So it's not just, oh, I have an elderly parent and I need some advice, or I need to connect my entire family to help understand what's happening with my mother or my father. Though they do that, they do elder support, but they also provide services to help you. So it's an expanded service, I think, that is really important. And it's become a bigger and bigger issue for that population that is right there in the middle, right? We're trying to take care of our elderly parents. We're trying to raise our children. Everything's happening at one time. And the stress of that is sometimes overwhelming.
That's true. And I think the generational impact of this cannot be understated. We have, obviously, as we talked about already, we have those workers that are in the early stages of their careers who are trying to accumulate greater sense of financial stability with their base salary and benefits. And then you have folks who are on the end of their careers who are thinking about retirement or transitions. And if financial stress is causing difficulty there, it may impact things like transition plans or succession planning to help modernize the capabilities that your company needs to go forward. So they're not just interrelated for the person, they're interrelated for the business. And the stress that this causes is not just something that employees face. It's certainly things that employers and business leaders face too. And that's really where we hope that the Insperity relationship can help you think about that really thoughtfully and carefully. But I want to dive a little bit more into the generational piece. Many people think that maybe something like employee financial wellness support is just for the younger employees. I don't think that's really the case. I think older workers face just as many challenges thinking about how they're going to successfully exit their careers out of the workforce. So, Cornell, I'd like to maybe ask you, are there some other generational dynamics that we should look at here, maybe things from the survey or things that you guys have seen over the years?
Sure. So when it comes to generational dynamics, we find that employees are stressed about different things, but all are stressed. We kind of hit that headline before, that stress was kind of the common denominator. But what causes that stress is sometimes different by generation. So for more than half of Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X, the stress about their finances, when we ask them about what is the most cause of their stress is their finances. Well, we see the differences in baby boomers, because they kind of had a different generation where they probably had a little more of the social net that, Judy was mentioning about pension plan and other support that they possibly have. And they were also the beneficiaries of unprecedented growth in wages and other types of wealth across the economic spectrum. So when you kind of differentiate that, it's kind of Gen Z, millennials, Gen X are kind of more homogenous in what they've been feeling as a stress, where the baby boomers are sometimes slightly different. What we do see is that Gen X employees are most likely to be carrying credit card balances. They may be facing the pinch of providing for their children while also caring for their aging parents, kind of that sandwich generation. They're also the least likely generation to be confident that they'll be able to retire when they want to. That's kind of an interesting statistic. And probably for a lot of workforces, that makes up a bulk of their workforce right now, feeling that they are not able to retire. I think another thing, in addition to generational, sometimes think about low wage versus high wage earners. What we've found in our study is that, and it's usually surprising to most business leaders, is the high wage earners are even more stressed than a lot of their low wage earners, right? They're kind of really over half of them earning over $100,000 are more stressed than the low wage earners. And then that's even a 50% increase than we saw in prior years. So that kind of was accelerating outside through the pandemic.
That's good. That's very interesting. I think those insights are the kinds of things that really a sound HR people strategy is really going to be thoughtful to approach on a number of different fronts. So thinking about a scalable model that can help from the entire employee life cycle. I think that's such a critical part of thinking through the strategic way that you as a business leader can help address these different stages of career development for your team. Judy, you mentioned a few of the wellness benefits that are available to Insperity clients. We would encourage any of the Insperity clients on the call today to reach out to your service teams to really think about how to put together a strategic plan utilizing some of these capabilities that are here and certainly things that are coming in the immediate future. We also acknowledge that an important part of this whole process is creating that stability, that greater sense of stability with the workplace, so that we can help our employees be their very best. Because if we have these folks who are stressed at home and are bringing that stress to work, these are likely the same people that are interfacing directly with clients, and that will translate into the client experience that your company will provide. So again, this is not simply just a feel-good strategy. It really is a getting better agenda strategy. It's a business growth strategy to help think about this. But I think Judy, there's some things here that there might be people on the call today that may think, why is this my responsibility? We can make the case, but at the end of the day, why is it my responsibility to say that I need to help my employees get their house in order? How would you counter that argument?
Well, I would say that we as employers, we do have a responsibility to look at that whole health, right? There's 5 pillars there for a reason. They all impact the performance of that person. So if we're concerned, we provide medical plans, we're concerned about somebody's physical health, why would we not have the same concern for their emotional or their financial health? So I do think it's a responsibility. I'm not saying it's easy, right? These are expensive products, and they can be probably prohibitively expensive for an employee themselves to go out and try and find. So the product that we're trying to put in place, or we will be putting in place for 1/1, the My Secure Advantage product, is a live coaching. So we know that lots of people like to self-learn. Like, I like to go out and use apps and meditation apps, things that can help me relax. I do books on tapes. I do a lot of things on my own, right? A lot of people do. And there's generations that maybe that is more appealing to them. But there's a lot of people that still like to talk to a live person, and they have an immediate need or an immediate challenge that they're trying to face, and they need someone to just talk to. Sometimes it is just that I need to talk to somebody because I don't have anybody else to talk to, right? And that's what these services will provide. They can help navigate and help even find sometimes free services in their area that might help them. And these are sometimes really big challenges. I received an eviction notice. I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to move forward. And they need some help. And they need somebody on a phone. So an app's not going to solve for that. If an app solved all my problems, I would weigh 110 pounds, right? We know that is not the case. So I think that what we're trying to do is just provide really robust services that will help every single person, regardless where they are in their stage of life, regardless of what their challenge is. And I think that's the most important piece. It's just understanding that you sometimes can't do that on your own. And smaller clients can't do it on their own. And that's why Insperity does exist, right? We're to help that whole health of that person and to help provide the services that they need. And well-being is a big passion for us. And our whole underlying theme of our company is to take care of your people. And so that's what we try and do.
Well, that's well said. I think, this, again, we've tried to make the case here through our time today of thinking about this less as a reactionary type of program and more of a proactive program that's allowing systems and processes to be in place to help address concerns before they're real, so that we're not dealing with the crisis in the moment and potentially having those really difficult flashpoint issues with employees that can create all sorts of problems. Another one of those, I think this sort of is compounded by the transition that's been made to remote or hybrid working, where employees, even your top employees, now have more opportunity to transition to other roles because of the flexibility that comes with remote working. And so therefore, some may be tempted to jump to another opportunity for even a modest increase in base salary if they are feeling that financial stress. So Cornell, from your perspective, what are some of those practical strategies that business leaders can do to foresee and even combat this situation?
I mean, practical strategies, I really think is offering them support and education around all the different benefits that kind of your employers are offering, linking them all together to kind of get that full employee value proposition. I think that's definitely key. A lot of times working with clients is a lot of employers had these programs in place and the employees are just not aware of them. So a lot of it is an awareness campaign to make sure people are right there. And as Judy was mentioning, having someone to help direct the person to the right resource at the right time is definitely something we see as a value add that employers can try to do to help guide their employees to the things that they might have that would really be impactful for them. And that's a challenge to do at scale, right? So as Judy mentioned, it's something that, is a challenge that we need to try to address as the employer community.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I would say that that is one of the biggest pieces that we try and conquer, is to connect all those pieces and make sure that the resources that somebody has, EAP, CareLoop, My Secure Advantage, all of our contact center, even that all of them are aware of the services. So if someone calls in, they can get them. We even have health advocacy services where they can get them to the right place or know about this additional service. If someone mentions that they need help, that is one of the things that these services can do. They'll transfer them over to the right place. That is, I think, Cornell, you hit it on the head. That is the hardest thing to do, is make people aware of all the products and services that they have available and to keep them informed.
So some other strategies we've seen is we've seen a lot of success when we work with clients around kind of linking with their affinity groups or other employee resource groups, where employees may feel comfortable, they're in a more safer space with other people with a similar type of situations. Vignettes, testimonials, they usually go a long way. What does it really mean for them and how they can, explain how they use the program, maybe that got them over a hump, or maybe even how I didn't know where to start. And so I used the program to help me start somewhere, or I used them as a sounding board. I kept hearing things from my friends, my family, and I don't know who to trust, using their employee resource, their financial wellness program to help do that. And then a lot of times local champions, trying to find out if, you're an organization with, different work sites, who are those vocal employees at those sites? Who do people naturally go to? Try to target those people either via HR or else other ways to try to figure out, how do I convince that person? Because they'll be a conduit to bring that awareness out to the rest of the organization. So that kind of helps bring it back to those 5 pillars and having a culture of wellness at your organization. Those are kind of really the key strategies that we've seen work at a lot of our clients.
That's really good advice. And I'd like to spend a little more time unpacking that, because I think, Joy, I'm going to come to you with this question. As we said here just a minute ago, so much of having the program is using the program, right? The value only comes if employees use it. So I think one of the challenges to utilization is that there may be a stigma about asking for help. And Cornell offered some suggestions that were fantastic ideas. What other advice do you have for business leaders on the call about how to successfully implement the plan that destigmatizes these issues and can help achieve the goals that perhaps it's intended for?
Cornell touched on this a little bit, but the best thing leaders can do to make employees feel comfortable using these benefits and increase adoption rates is really simple. Use it themselves and talk about it openly and regularly. Lead by example. If your employees can see that you and other leaders in your business are using the program, it will remove any hesitancy to engage with the benefit out of fear that others will think less of them. And it's also really beneficial for people to hear examples of how their peers or their leadership use the benefit in ways they may not have thought about. Storytelling is way more impactful and more memorable than statistics and bullet points on a slide deck. For the last few years, I've had the privilege of leading a session about well-being support in Insperity's new hire orientation program, and I always make a point to share a story of how I personally have used and enjoyed some of the benefits I'm telling them about. Literally every session, I have at least 1 or 2 attendees reach out to me afterwards to comment on how much they appreciated hearing those stories, or ask me a follow-up question about the anecdote I shared and, what exactly was I told by the vendor and what had ended up happening. People remember the stories of personal experiences more than they remember anything else. And hearing firsthand examples shows them it's not a big deal to use the financial coaching benefit or the employee assistance program or whatever other thing people are a little leery about.
Yeah, I mean, I think your leading by example point is so well made. And I think another maybe issue here, and Judy, I'd like to get your perspective on this, is the question of confidentiality. Maybe that some people who might want to use the program may be hesitant to use it because of maybe a fear that their employer will somehow be told, or they'll have access to the private or personal information that they're sharing and potentially put their employment relationship at risk. So how do we combat this question or this concern of confidentiality, and how do you respond to that concern?
Well, I think, first of all, Joy's a really good example. If Joy didn't tell me she had used a service, I wouldn't know. So we do get broad numbers, right, from every one of our carriers and our vendors, because we want to know, are the services being utilized? And we want to see an uptick in that every single year. So we get, like I said, broad numbers. We know that 50 people called into CareLoop, and I know by category, broad category, but I don't know who the 50 people are. I don't see any details on the 50 people. And I don't want to see the details. It's not my business. What I want is to know that it was 50 people last month and it's 60 this month and it's 75 the next month. That's what I want to see. I want to see that trend of utilization go up, because I don't want to offer services that aren't going to be utilized. It's a waste of our money and our efforts. So I think, like I said, Joy is the best example, because I know she uses these services because she's very vocal about it. She uses her examples and her experiences. And I think she's exactly right. Those resonate with the users. They resonate with the end user, with the employees, with our clients. By being involved in those services, she made it a point, because we wanted to bring all of this information together into one place, which is when we put our well-being page together. And we get about 24,000 clicks on that well-being link every single month, which is phenomenal. It used to be a little bit buried in our system, and now it's right out there on the left-hand navigation in Premier. It works beautifully. When you click on that, you see our 5 pillars of health, and you can dive into each one of those and find what you need. So I think that's it. It's just knowing that it's confidential. I don't know any more than you want me to know. So if you don't tell me, I'm never going to know.
That's good to know. Cornell, I want to kind of begin to wrap us up here with the question going back to, some of the things you shared about, the tools and the resources that are there. We obviously have talked about several that Insperity clients will have access to through our Premier platform, through the various providers that are here today and that will be coming here shortly. There are obviously numbers of tools and resources available to people, and there's obviously apps for all sorts of things. But you've talked about earlier your recommended action about the importance of one-on-one coaching as part of this program. What is the difference here? What's the benefit that that level of support provides that maybe an app or a tool cannot?
And not to discount a lot of those tech and scalable solutions and apps, right? A lot of them do a really great job personalizing the content, getting you the right information at the right time. But we still feel, and we see in our survey, is that employees crave that one-on-one guidance. They want that person to talk to. I don't know if it's that trust factor is not just there yet with the tech solution. It's using the tech and the human together is what we see as the most powerful. So, we also see that in experience when we're developing and implementing programs. You can't just have, an app solve for all your things. Judy mentioned that before. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's having that kind of overall strategy, culture, well-being, where these things all link together. That's when you start to change behaviors and have impact for your employees. When it comes to the survey, only a small percentage of employees, about 14%, say that they don't want any help when it comes to finances. They think they have it. So the majority want to make their own decisions, but they like to have the idea of someone who can help them validate their choices, that sounding board, that advisor to kind of go through things. They hear things from lots of different places. They, see videos on their social media platforms. They have the, keeping up the Joneses. I don't know if that's a term anymore for the younger generation, but, feel that feeling. And then they feel like they are not doing enough on their own. And so they kind of want to have someone to talk to help be that sounding board and level set what they're doing. So it's really a balance of leveraging the online solutions that you have, but with that one-on-one coaching to help directing employees to that right resource, either it's phone or video is a cost-effective way, but really trying to get them to that right thing at the right time.
That's good. Joy, you've been good enough to share with the teams that you've presented to, some of these anecdotes. Would you mind maybe sharing a couple of those with us, things that maybe would be helpful or encouraging to other people as they're thinking about some practical applications, maybe some of those examples that you've shared?
Sure. For the financial well-being benefit, I typically have one moment every tax season where I get really overwhelmed and I think, oh no, I've messed something up. And I call our financial coaching service in a panic that I'm going to end up in IRS jail or something. And every year the coach will very calmly talk me down and tell me, okay, deep breaths, everything is fine. Here's this form you need to fill out, file it with your taxes. Nobody's going to go to IRS jail today. And it brings me great peace of mind to know that we have these experts available for free, and their only goal is to better their client's financial situation. I really appreciate that they aren't steering me one way or another because they're selling a product or earning a commission, as they likely would be if I were getting financial advice through a bank or an investment firm.
Yeah, those are the kind of practical things that everybody deals with. And it's nice to be able to know that there are resources out there that can help you make those decisions and have that peace of mind that comes with it. So thank you for sharing that, Joy.
I can go all day with the stories. I've used all of the benefits. I like to be my own guinea pig, and I'll just stop now if you only need the one.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think as we talked about earlier, it's having those champions within the organization that makes all the difference, and being able to be bold enough to share some of those stories, even some of the hard ones. I think that makes people a level of vulnerability and transparency about, that we're all going through these things together. And the more that we can talk about them and know that there are resources to help us come up with the solutions, that's such a critical part to the solution. So thanks for sharing that. Judy, as we mentioned earlier, larger organizations are more inclined to provide these kinds of resources to their employees. They have the means to do so. For smaller businesses, certainly for individuals, that having access to programs like these can really be difficult. So, one of the things that Insperity takes so much pride and excitement in is our ability to bring some of those big company-related benefits to the clients that we serve. So, for those Insperity clients on the call today, let's just remind them one more time of how these kind of ideas, these kind of solutions, relate to the service offering that we provide.
Yeah, Michael, I think you said it exactly. So we're a business that is providing big business benefits to smaller employers, right? And that is our goal, is to make sure that everything that's available to us as corporate employees is available to our clients and our worksite employees. So it's really straightforward, right? We want every single employee to think, and client to think about the whole health of their employees. And I think we do a really good job of putting that all together so that the employee has access to those benefits. I agree with Cornell that the one-to-one coaching, the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody, is the key benefit there. We looked at lots of services before we landed on My Secure Advantage, and we feel like it's a really solid benefit to offer our employees. And I'm offering that across our book of business to both full-time and part-time employees is a huge deal. So that wouldn't be a benefit that you can go out and buy on your own as a small client. And we do take pride in that. And we do think that the My Secure Advantage relationship that's going into effect at January will be truly beneficial to all of these employees. And it is about retaining employees, right? So if I'm worried about losing employees because they can go and get these benefits at the bigger employer down the street from me, then I don't want to have to worry about those things. I want to attract employees. I want to retain them. It takes a lot of money and effort to train employees and to keep them engaged in your company. And you don't want them coming to work every day worried about their personal finances. You want to give them solutions so that they can then focus on their jobs.
That's very well said. Judy, thank you for those reminders. And Joy and Cornell, thank you for the insights and the ideas that you've provided today to us. The research is fascinating, and it paints such a clear picture of not only the challenges, but the opportunities that also lie ahead. And Insperity certainly appreciates our collaboration with you and the PwC team, Cornell, and we value the outstanding work that you are doing on this front. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
This session has been the first of a two-part series focusing on the evolving landscape of employee benefits. And as we've seen in our conversation today, one of those emerging benefits is just how the very best employers are focusing on the well-being of the whole person, even the whole family. Again, not just as a feel-good strategy, but as a primary business growth strategy. Because at the end of the day, that is what Insperity is committed to do in service to our clients, to helping them achieve their business growth goals by maximizing the potential of their people. So in the coming weeks, we're going to continue our discussion on a related topic. We touched on it earlier around the evolving situation with 401ks. There's a lot of information to cover as we dive into the details of the Secure 2.0 Act of 2022. It was a significant piece of legislation that was passed late last year that substantially changed the rules around retirement savings plans, another key aspect of this employee financial wellness topic. So when partnered with that proactive employee wellness strategy, these new retirement rules will enable businesses to support their employees in new and creative ways that will allow them to manage debt and save for retirement in ways that were maybe previously not possible. And through those efforts, you may find that you have an edge, a new edge on the war for talent. So we encourage you to register for that session and to discover the wealth of resources that we have on these topics on Insperity.com. You can visit Insperity.com/resources, where you'll also be able to find access to a replay of this session later today. At the end of the day, our goal is to help you create a workplace where people are there for more than just a paycheck. They are able to pursue a purpose greater than themselves, and they are being equipped with the tools and the training and the resources to do just that. In Insperity, we seek to partner with our clients to achieve that very thing. So I encourage you to reach out to your service teams. Let's get proactive about utilizing those services that you have. Explore the 5 pillars of wellness on Insperity Premier. Do take advantage of the resources that are available to you on this front. It's our continued privilege to serve you, our clients, and your employees and their families in this way. So if you're not yet an Insperity client and you're interested in learning more about how to tackle these issues that we talked about today, let me invite you to visit Insperity.com right now, and let's start that conversation today. We hope you'll join us for the next session of the Insperity Business Resiliency Series webcast, scheduled for Wednesday, September 27th. And as always, we thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to talking to you again at our next session.